Good afternoon or good evening. Here you have Joe and I, and we're going to be presenting our next Flip faculty meeting. And today we're going to be dealing with creating and using effective math anchor charts. During this presentation, we're going to show you some practical examples. We're going to ask you to look at a few examples and determine if you think they're effective. And we're going to give you the criteria that judges an effective anchor chart. And in the email that you'll get or that you got with this, it will also have a rubric so you can evaluate your own anchor charts throughout the year end for this faculty meeting.
So here's the criteria for an effective anchor chart. 1. It should have a single focus. For example, when in a geometry unit, you could focus on solid shapes or on angles. Another example is a chart that could be related math concepts, like a chart on factors and multiples. 2. It should reflect recent math instruction needing continued support and scaffolding. Our anchor charts need to be current. 3. It helps scholars remember the process of a skill or strategy. With any good chart, the scholars should refer back to it and it should become a meaningful resource within the room. 4. It should support the development of precise math language. We've been talking about precision, and precision is important. Since the expectation for our scholars is to use precision, it's important that we effectively model the use of precise language on a consistent basis. And finally, it must have a title that reflects purpose. A good title should be visible, and it should be a quick cue to allow students to easily identify the chart that they need to use that particular day. It also, as a teacher, should help you categorize your charts for later use.
Let's take a look at this anchor chart. It has many of the criteria of an effective anchor chart. The first thing it really jumps out is it has a definite single focus. Right now you have the multiples and factors. You have some connection between those two concepts. That's very important. It has the nice vocabulary, that precise vocabulary where you're dealing with quotient, divisor, but it's also introducing some new vocabulary, finite and infinite. And if you notice, it also defines it there. So that's going to become something that should become part of their math vocabulary. And it goes back to what Joe shared earlier. It's developing that precise math vocabulary that we hope our scholars are going to be using on a frequent basis. It definitely is addressing a skill here. And if you take a look, you're dealing with multiples and factors, and we know that appears throughout math in multiple grade levels, and we may be calling it other things, but it's going to be a skill that builds on itself throughout. The one concern with this anchor chart is it does not have a title. Now, in this case, obviously, we know the purpose of the chart, but again, for our scholars and being able to look at it and use it more readily, we want that to have a title that they can reference, and again, it will also help you categorize it.
Here's another example of an anchor chart. This would be considered a model anchor chart. It meets the needs of the criteria that we're looking for. Now, going down the rubric, I see it has a single focus, addition strategies. It includes multiple strategies for adding. Since addition strategies span multiple grade levels, I would assume that it reflects recent math. Since I'm not in the classroom, it's hard to determine if this is a recent math lesson. It's certainly a scaffolded chart. It supports multiple levels of ability. This chart also uses the precise math language like tally, decomposing, and open number line to promote the mathematical precision that we're looking for in our scholars. And it has a visible and meaningful title. Now for the next two anchor charts, let's see, what do you think? Do you think they meet the criteria for a model anchor chart? Primary teachers, why don't you focus on this chart about geometric shapes? And intermediate teachers, why don't you take a look at this skip counting chart? Let us know what you think. We will be beginning Monday's discussion about these two charts, and we want to know if they meet the criteria that we're looking for in an effective anchor chart.
So what you need for Monday. You need to come ready to discuss those two anchor charts that we had. You may want to jot some notes because we are going to start our discussion talking about the two anchor charts that we assigned. Obviously, if you're primary and you felt more moved by the other anchor chart, you're certainly free to discuss whichever one you want. The most important thing is we really want to have an open discussion about the criteria for the anchor charts and if they meet them. The other thing we're asking you to do is in your classroom, create an anchor chart with your scholars and bring that anchor chart to the meeting because we'd really like to take a look at the different types of anchor charts we have and how they can be used effectively here at Logan. You're also going to need your laptops because once we're done discussing your completed anchor charts, we're going to be looking into future lessons to see where anchor charts would lend themselves to the instruction. If you're someone who doesn't teach math, please pair up with someone who does. So obviously in 4th and 5th grade, you're departmentalized. Our RLA folks, you're going to need to team up with a math person. This is kind of helpful because you certainly use anchor charts as well in the RLA curriculum. If you're a special area teacher, find a classroom teacher and jump in, because really anchor charts can be used in all kinds of subject areas. And really our strong focus is getting anchor charts in classrooms so our scholars can use them on a continuous basis. If you have any questions, please feel free to see Joe or I during the week. This is for the faculty meeting on the 24th, so you have a week and a day or so to get this done. And again, if you have any concerns or questions, please let us know. We'll see you on Monday.